Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans.
That, of course, was Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris accepting her party's nomination last night in Chicago. That speech by Harris capped off 4 days of the party's national convention, as the Democrats made their case to undecided voters that Harris would be the best choice for president in November's election. For a closer look at the speech last night, we are joined by Chryl Laird. She is an associate professor of government and politics at the University of Maryland, College Park, and we have reached her in Silver Spring, Maryland. Thanks so much for making time for us, Chryl.
Thank you for having me this morning.
So we knew that last night's speech was going to be an incredibly important moment for Harris. How do you think she did? Did she step up? Did she deliver?
I think she did. She came out and she basically made sure to give an image of herself as being presidential. So many of the speeches that we had prior were ones that were very much crowd pleasing in that they were kind of energizing, people trying to get people pumped up and excited. Hers had much more of a cadence that was, I am giving you what it would look like to see me as president. And I think that's an important step for her to be making in the campaign at this point. And she spoke directly about policy as well as giving an optic of what it means for her to be in this position and what it means for Americans to have her in that position.
I think that's a really important point that you brought up, Chryl, about being viewed as presidential, because for the past couple of years here, she has been the vice president, and she's been largely in the background. Some would even say we didn't hear from her all that much over these past couple of years. Is there more, do you think, that she needs to do to move that needle from being seen as vice president to being seen as a potential president?
Well, it's interesting with this transition that's happened with the candidacy for the Democratic Party. I think that Biden stepping back and giving her the space to be more of the front facing here because of the position that she's now in, really is going to do more to make her be seen for the presidential candidate that she is. I think when she's doing more of these kind of tours as she's going around the country to kind of mobilize voters, more of that style of speaking directly to people, speaking directly to the issues and the concerns that people are having, as well as what she plans to do. So she's really now starting to define who she is as a candidate and what she will do when she gets into office. And so she can speak more directly to that, and I hope that she continues to do so.
We did hear her on the attack a bit, directed to Donald Trump. And I want to listen to just a clip of it from last night together here. So let's take a listen to that now.
Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself.
It's a similar theme that we heard from some of the other speakers this week as well, trying to make Trump, focusing on him being self-centered and the danger of that. What do you make of the criticism overall that we heard from Harris, but from others towards their opponent?
I think it's fair criticism to be making. Trump has openly spoken about kind of his concerns about how he's been treated, how he has been villainized, how he is targeted, how he wants to potentially get back at people who've done him wrong, that the Republicans have openly been talking about how they've had to kind of steer him to speak more about policy because he's been going for more personal attacks. And some of those personal attacks haven't been the the best that he's offered. And so I think she's doing a good job of really putting herself in direct contrast, as well as other people who are in the party. But she really needed to speak to what differentiated her from Trump, and that she is saying that I am a woman of the people. I am somebody who is speaking for all Americans. And I think that's an interesting take to be having, seeing how for a long time, at least within modern history, the Republican Party has been seen as the more patriotic party in terms of the imagery that they offered about who they were, right? A lot of the flags, red, white, and blue. We are the true Americans. And what we saw last night was her really making more of an attempt to bring that branding back to the Democratic Party, that we are the everyman, that we understand these issues, and that I am working for you. And that's a lot of a different type of story from where Trump is coming from, particularly because he is going to be going into his second term, or a second effort at being in this administration again after already winning in 2016. So he's in a different place as a candidate than she is. And so her agenda is one where responsiveness to the public is probably much more centered than Trump, who is returning with a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
It did seem as though Harris was trying to be relatable with her personal stories, and also with her values that she was talking about, and those leading into the policy hopes that she has for the party. Relatable to a lot of people, trying to kind of cover a lot of different angles there. But I wonder, do you think that she was able to reach undecided voters with this speech? I know that probably most people who were watching it were Democrats, in the U.S. The people, of course, who were there last night were party loyalists. So, but beyond that, the clips that end up circling around online and whatnot, do you think that those will reach undecided voters, that her message will?
I think it does. I think they will. One of the clips obviously will get to a lot of people who maybe I don't watch the news, but I'll see something on TikTok. And so those clips kind of summarize a bit of who she is. It tells you about where she is, where she comes from, what kind of goals she has in mind, what kind of policy she has in mind. Just kind of what I've heard from some of the focus group things that were being done by various media outlets here in the United States is that people in parts of the country like Pennsylvania and other places seem to be drawn to what she said in that speech, thought that she was speaking to issues and concerns that were very relatable to what they are worried about and what they want to have addressed by government. And so as those clips start to circulate, those individuals who didn't really know her may not even know that she is the candidate, which is very possible. Now we'll be able to see her in a light where she is giving an image of who she is going to be if she were to win and if she was to be in office, and that is the president. And as a woman, I think that that's an important part of that, right? When we think about leadership, particularly in the U.S. context, at the presidential level, it has been all men. And so a woman is in a position where she has to really make sure that she is presenting and showing herself to be strong, to be somebody who can stand on position, someone who is very convicted in what they plan to do. And I think that came across in what she did last night.
Yeah, it's interesting, that historic component of it being the first Black woman, the first woman of South Asian descent to be nominated for a major party. It wasn't something that she really touched on, but it's something that so many people are talking about and thinking about during this campaign. Cheryl, great to get your thoughts on last night and on the convention overall. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That's Chryl Laird, an associate professor of government and politics at the University of Maryland, College Park.